Good morning and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual free thinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and a better world. Wherever you are on that spiritual journey, you are welcome here. My name is Thomas Lyon. I'll be your worship associate for this morning. Our minister today is Reverend Eileen Casey-Campbell. And the service is being live streamed on our YouTube channel. If this is your first visit, we welcome you to sign our visitor book at the entryway. And if this is your 1000th visit, welcome once again. We are glad that you came with us together. I have a few announcements before we begin. Please wear your well-fitted, high-quality mask. A surgical mask is available if you forgot one or need a replacement. We are unfortunately unable to sing in unison at this time, but you're welcome to hum or sway or just dance in your seat or get up and dance if you'd like. You can ignore the joys and sorrows in the service today. Or in your hymnal today. We're doing a slightly different ritual. You may find a little white piece of paper and that will come up later. Just hang on to that for now. The final announcement that I have is there are many opportunities to volunteer. If you have an interest in serving as a worship associate like myself or as a greeter or serve in any other capacity, please reach out to Danielle or myself with regard to that. Are there any other announcements for the good of the order? Okay, seeing none, we will prepare together and I remind you to silence your phones. Let us enter a space of worship. I invite you to join us in our chalice lighting words. If you don't know them by heart, they are available in your hymnal under 448 in the black of the gray hymnal, that is. All right. We gather this hour of people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, and celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning and Happy New Year. I'm going to keep my mask on today, so I want to ask for your help. If you need me to articulate better, give me one of these. And if everything's fine, you could give me one of these, or, just sit there like you usually do. Yeah. So I remember the first year that my parents allowed me to stay up until midnight on New Year's Eve. I had waited and waited for this opportunity. I begged every year to be allowed to watch the new year begin. And there was one thing I really wanted to see. I wanted to see the ball drop in Times Square. I had heard about this tradition of dropping a large fancy ball. I had seen a few times coverage on the news of that year's ball made of Waterford crystal or 1,000 plates of glass and other such fanciness. And then finally, the day came when I was allowed to watch it happen. And man, what a letdown. See, I had been imagining that they actually dropped a giant crystal ball, letting it fall and shatter gloriously in the middle of Times Square. So when I found out the ball wasn't dropped so much as lowered slowly just down to the roof level of the building, I was very disappointed. Well, I understand why smashing a glass ball in the middle of a crowd of revelers in Times Square is not a great idea. I still feel compelled to bid farewell to the old year with a bit of destruction, a great big cathartic release, especially a year like this, right? So I've been thinking about that destructive impulse as fires burned in Colorado this week. Wildfires are even bigger and less manageable these days than ever before. And due to drought and climate crisis, they pose a bigger and bigger threat to human life as we humans expand our habitats. But the ecosystems of the West are actually dependent on cleansing fire. And for millennia, controlled burning has been a vital part of Indigenous land stewardship. As colonists whose framework of understanding of the world is domination of wilderness rather than stewardship of it, transformation of the wild into the tamed and the domestic, our culture has been unable to see the fires as restorative and healthy. It's a culture that has willfully misunderstood the idea of wilderness stewardship. But Indigenous wisdom is aligned with what environmental science is just now beginning to show us. Some ecosystems need the cleansing rite of small controlled fire to reduce combustible debris and return nutrients to the soil, and to prevent the spontaneous and catastrophically large fires we are all too familiar with this week. And I think that's why we come to church too. We need a space where we can let the debris of anger, fear, and sorrow burn away. If we clear the floor of our soul of its bad habits, apathy, or regret, we can prevent the kind of dangerous combustion that happens when we least expect it. And we can make room to invite new growth. I hope that's what we do this morning. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join with me in our first hymn, humming, swaying, clapping, or dancing to 1028 in your teal hymnal, Fire of Commitment.
From the light of days remembered, birds of peak in
And now it's time for a story. This morning's story is called Grandmother Spider Brings Fire, and it's a tale from the Choctaw people. When the earth was first made, there was no sun or moon in the sky, not even a star. The world was cold and dark. Life was hard for the birds and animals and people. One day, Raven called everyone to a great gathering. I have heard there is something called fire on the other side of the world, he said. It makes light and heat. What is light and heat? Asked the fox. I don't. Yeah, like the sun, but there was no sun yet. I don't know, said Raven, but they have it on the other side of the world, and we should have it too. Perhaps we can share some of their fire, Fox suggested, and the others agreed. But who would go and fetch it? I'm a great hunter, said Possum. I'll bring the fire back in my thick and bushy tail. And so the gathering agreed that Possum should go. Possum journeyed to the other side of the world and found the bright fire there. He put a tiny piece under his tail and set off for home. But the little flame grew. It quickly burned all the hair on his tail, and then it went out. Possum returned to the gathering without any fire, and to this day, all possums have bare tails. Let me try, said Buzzard. I will be swift on my great wings. Buzzard flew to the other side of the world and found the fire there. He put a small piece among his head feathers to carry it home. But soon he smelt smoke. Flames burnt off his head feathers, and then the flames went out. Buzzard returned to the gathering without any fire, and to this day, all buzzards have bald red heads. Then a tiny voice spoke from the back of the gathering. Let me fetch the fire. It was Grandmother Spider. Do you think you can succeed when Possum and Buzzard have failed? Asked Raven. Yes, said Grandmother Spider. I am small, but I have many skills. So the gathering reluctantly agreed that she should try. First, Grandmother Spider went down to the river and found some clay, which she shaped into a pot with a well-fitting lid. Next, she took a thorn and made a small hole in the lid. Then she put the pot on her back and fixed it with her thread. When everything was ready, she spun a web all the way to the other side of the world. The bright fire was easy to find. Grandmother Spider put a tiny piece inside the pot and closed the lid tight. Then she followed her way back along the web to the gathering. Nobody noticed that Grandmother Spider had returned, for the light of the fire was hidden in the pot. But when she took off the lid, the fire blazed upward. Everyone at the gathering was amazed. For the first time, they saw each other and felt warmth on their fur and feathers and skin. Who will look after this precious fire? Raven asked. The animals shook their heads because they had seen what happened to Possum and to Buzzard. But the people stepped forward. We'll take care of it, they said. So Grandmother Spider taught the people how to feed the fire and keep it alive, and how to circle it with stones to keep it safe and themselves safe too. Then she spun a web high into the sky and threw sparks from her pot to make the sun and the moon and the stars, so there was light and warmth for all the world. And this is the end of our story.
Now I invite you into the spiritual practice of generosity. Donations from all are our primary way to fund the good works of this congregation. 1/4 of our plate collected today is going to go to Happiness House, an educational, residential, health, and human services organization that excels at providing services to children and adults and with and without disabilities. Through our collaboration with families and partners throughout the Finger Lakes community, You can give this morning's offering by placing cash or checks into the basket, which will be circulated momentarily. Or if you're joining us from home, you can visit canandaiguauu.org/connection/donate or mailing to our physical address at 3024 Cooley Road, Canandaigua, New York, 14424. In any case, make a note that this gift is intended for today's offering. We will gratefully accept the offering now.
I invite you now into a time of centering and meditation, followed by shared silence. And by shared silence, of course, we always mean the absence of us grown-ups talking so that we can listen more closely to the sounds of life. The wind rushing outside the windows, the breath of the neighbor beside us, the wiggles and giggles of our children, and the beating of our own hearts. So I invite you to take a deep breath in, get comfortable where you sit. This morning's meditation is by Amanda Gorman. May this be the day we come together. Mourning we come to mend, withered we come to weather, torn we come to tend, battered we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. We must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it, to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reel toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, we now the future foresee. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now these moments we make. The moments we meet and our hearts once together beaten, now all together beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. We remember not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heed this old spirit in a new day's lyric. In our hearts we hear it. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne. Be bold, sang time this year. Be bold, sang time. For when you honor yesterday, tomorrow ye will find. Know what we fought need not be forgot, nor for none. It defines us, binds us as one. Come over, join this day just begun. For wherever we come together, we will forever overcome. Now I invite you to pick up the small white paper you found on your chair when you came in. Hopefully you still have it. Do wave a hand if it's lost. If you're joining us online, you can hold any paper in your hand or even just clasp your hands together. Take a deep breath in. Think back over the year that has just ended. Breathe out. What is it that you carried for the year that felt too heavy? What is it that you're ready to lay down this morning and carry no longer? Breathe in once more. Take a moment to reflect on the fire hazards of your inner being. Which habits or feelings or experiences lie deep below the surface of yourself, threatening to combust if they are not released? Breathe out with a sigh. And breathe all of what needs to be released into your hands, into this paper. And I want to ask you, one at a time, giving each other lots of space, to come forward and drop your paper in the metal container at the front. You may name what it is you're letting go of, silently or aloud, as you do. If you're participating online, please enter a word of release into the chat or silently in your heart, and a paper will be dropped on your behalf. As you drop your paper, please pick up a green leaf with a word of intention for the new year. Feel free to look at the words and choose the right one for you, or pick the closest leaf and let fate decide. You can hang it somewhere you'll notice it often, and remember to encourage this growth in yourself throughout the year. If you're online, please choose from the words in the chat or write your own intention into the chat yourself. I invite you to come forward now as you feel moved. you haven't come forward to drop a paper yet, there's plenty of time. For our friends on Zoom. Are we ready to let these things go?
Yes.
I'm going to give it back to you. Are we ready to let these things go?
Yes.
May we release the refuse of the past and leave its ashes behind us. May the charred ground of our being make way for new growth. I invite you now to join us. No, I don't invite you yet to join us in our closing hymn. Bill has another song first.
Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten, and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. We too have run about the braes and pulled a gallant fine. We've wandered many a weary footfall since old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. And here's a hand, my trusty friend, and give us a hand of thine. We'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne.
May the cleansing power of fire release us from these burdens we have carried. May it create fertile ground within us for new growth. And now I invite you to rise in your body or in your spirit, to clap, dance, sway, or hum along with our closing hymn in your teal hymnal number 1074, Turn the World Around.
mountain. Fire made the sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the forest, they are the spirit, only can the spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is like a mighty wind. So is like, whoa, so is like a mighty wind. So is like, whoa, so is like a mighty wind. So is like, whoa, so is like a mighty wind. So is like.
Please join me in the words of extinguishing. If you know them by heart, that's great. If you're a little unclear, it's available at 456 in the back of the decoration. We extinguish this flame, for not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, for the fire written. These we carry in our hearts till we are together